stepping up my game. I'm a gangster, yes I am. With groove, I know I can. Read my master plan. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. Oh, I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. I'm moving, yes I am. I'm moving. I'm moving, yes I am. I'm moving. I'm moving, yes I am. Groove Nation inspires me to bust loose and break free. I'm dancing through my dreams, bursting at the seams. I'm feeling groove-alicious. Groove knows who I am. 'Cause now is my time to have a groove state of mind. I'm grooving. Oh, I'm grooving. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. Oh, I'm grooving. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. I'm moving, yes I am. I'm moving. I'm moving. I'm moving, yes I am.
Hello, Donna.
Hello, Ridgely. How are you today, my friend?
So happy to be here. And let me tell you why. So, I had a phenomenal beginning of the week. The first 3 days of the week were just amazing. And then came Thursday. And Thursday has been like, really, man? Really, man? Really? 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 All day long, I have jumped from one thing crisis to another, feel like I have accomplished basically nothing, and was so excited to just get on the call with my friend Donna and go, this is the beginning of the shift. We're going to shift this Thursday into a whole new gear, do something amazing, and create some value, and then I can end Thursday on a high note as opposed to this morning.
Well, here is hoping that this is the shift for you.
Right? You ever had those kind of days?
I definitely have had those kind of days. Those are days where you just want to crawl back in bed and start all over again tomorrow.
Right. And interestingly, our topic for this month, awareness / and protection, which they kind of go together. The awareness, I think, is pretty key because I really have a lot of stuff going on, including all the stuff that we're doing together. Groove Digital presents next week, etc., and a lot of details that have to happen. And today I just had to say to myself, take care of this one, then take care of the next one, then take care of the next one, then take care of the next one. You will put those behind you so that you can then refocus. And today may not be the day that you get to give as much attention to what you wanted to give attention to. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Be aware.
I love that.
It's kind of like taking a break. And part of it is, here's the crazy thing. So half an hour after our call, so I have a 30-minute window after our call to accomplish a number of other things. I made a commitment to my grandson. And I had to check in with myself, be aware, and say, you really don't have time to do that. And then correct myself and say, no, you don't have time not to do that.
Yeah.
He's
good job.
5. And he's looking forward to being with Yo-Yo. That would be me. The two of us. And how many times am I going to get that shot again?
Yep.
Not many. Not many. But he'll remember those. We have a new game. Here's our new game. Go into the pool with a skimmer.
Okay.
and rescue bugs and then dump them on the side of the pool and see which of them come back alive.
All right. I like
So
that
we're
game.
saving the bugs to see if they resuscitate.
Yes.
And it's fascinating in the mind of a 5-year-old. This is big stuff. He gets his face really close to looking at the bug and seeing if the bug is going to do anything or not do something. It's like, okay. And I know he can't wait to put his swimsuit on and go rescue bugs. And I'm like, if that's what we're doing, man, I am fully aware this is important to you. We're rescuing bugs. Okay, cool.
I love that. Perfect way to spend some time with your 5-year-old grandson.
Right. I'm just like, hey, man. And I really, it only took a split second for me to say, no, you are not canceling your grandson because you have too much stuff on your plate. Sorry. That stuff on your plate will be there later. It'll be there tomorrow. So pay attention. Be aware.
And obviously there's balance to be considered. If your grandson wanted you to do that for 5 hours a day every day,
Yeah.
then it might be time to say no to your grandson and prioritize some other things higher. But
no, exactly. And I did the one thing I did do because I knew I had, in a sense, okay, there's going to be a shift in this day, and it's going to happen when I get together with Donna. That's when this day is going to turn around. So
I love it.
I did prepare, just to let you know.
Fantastic.
And I want to start out with, and it was interesting because I brought out a series of resources that largely combined personal development side and hardcore business kind of side. And kind of mixing these up, different takes, because you'd be surprised how many hardcore business books have definitive statements on awareness and what awareness means in business. But I think we start with Deepak and the soul of leadership, see what he has to say. So one of Deepak's cornerstones, the Deepak soul of leadership, is made up of 7 different pieces. It's what he calls leaders, right? Leaders are look and listen, emotional bonding, awareness, doing, empowerment, responsibility, and synchronicity. Those are the 7 pieces of leadership. So I turn to his topic 3, awareness, and I found this really, really powerful. He says, awareness is the birthplace of possibility. Everything you want to do, everything you want to be starts here. To be a successful visionary, you must be as aware as possible. At every moment, many paths lead forward. Awareness tells you which is the right one to take. Before we go any further, I want to ask you a question. As we've discussed a number of times, one of my things is, what's your life state? Is your life state high enough? Or what happens when it dips? And what I find is that if my life state is not where it needs to be, I don't see the many paths lead forward. Everything just feels overwhelming. And yet when I turn around and do whatever it is that one does, in my case, it's chanting, but for whatever, painting, meditating, prayer, whatever, sitting under a tree, going for a walk, whatever your thing is, when I get my life state back where it needs to be, suddenly all those paths forward appear in front of me. It's almost miraculous. It's almost crazy that I can't see the same, I'm not as aware, so to speak, if my life condition is low. What do you think about that?
I think that makes perfect sense. And you're definitely supported by Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, that if your basic needs aren't met, so some might say if your life level is too low, if your needs aren't being met, those tend to be blinding circumstances. If you don't have food on your plate, it's hard to think of anything else besides when and where you're going to find food to put on your plate. Same with shelter, a roof over your head, clothes on your back, those basic fundamental things. And in life, those fundamental things could also be, a happy home life, or if something is wrong and unaddressed, the car's broken down, and then that's going to cause some strain and stress, rescheduling and getting it repaired, and the cost of repair. Like, those things can throw you off as well. You don't have to be dying of starvation. You can just have something in your life that is directing your awareness to that problem or circumstance.
For sure, right? Think about somebody that's going through a really hard time at home, or a divorce or something. How does that translate? Or they lost a loved one, or any number of tragic things. How does that translate into the way they operate in their day-to-day life, in their business, as well as in their relationships? Interestingly, a couple of days ago, on my very good beginning of the week, I had a fabulous GrooveGrowth program with one of our dear friends, a Flight Club member, Stefan Georgi, who flat out crushed it. I mean, I can't say enough about how good that was. And he was sharing an experience where, as many of us who have been entrepreneurs, one of the things that is a real challenge that we have to pay attention to is merchant processing, and having backups to merchant processing. And most of us learn that lesson to the depth that it needs to be learned based on extraordinary pain. Am I right? Can you relate?
Absolutely right.
Because everybody says that, but people don't take it seriously until it happens to you and your accounts are frozen and now you have no money and you owe everybody all of that stuff. And of course, happened to Stefan, happened to me, happened to you. I know, I was part of it. So you've been there already, right? And he wasn't prepared early on in the career. And he still had the awareness to protect himself, awareness and protection, and say, you know what? The cost of going through a monster lawsuit, of spending so many energy cycles battling that, is so high that I'm walking. And he walked. And that's not so easy to do when the numbers are really big, and they were bigger than most. It's kind of like, wow. But to have that presence of mind, that awareness to say, I'm not doing that, I'd rather look for the next possibility. Deepak says, as a leader, your own awareness affects everyone around you. Those whom you lead and serve depend on your grasp of the situation. You must reach inside for the right response. You alone can raise the group's awareness from lower needs to higher needs. To do that, you first must fulfill each need in yourself.
That speaks to me today, Ridgely.
Right. Tell me why it speaks to you so today.
So I do see a therapist, and we spoke this morning, and mostly I just talk through what I'm experiencing. It just helps to have a sounding board, a non-partial person that knows no one in my life but me. And today I was talking about how I'm also having a rough day today. Been having a rough couple of weeks.
Join the crowd.
Yeah.
Likes company, but I'm going to tell you that success and overcoming likes company too. Okay,
yes.
Just saying.
So I was talking to her about the challenges of, as a leader, the leadership challenge of remaining positive and focused when you don't feel like you can do that individually. So yeah, and it triggers for me, it triggered a whole lot of sense of fraud. Like, kind of, who am I to be leading a team when I can't get my own act together? Kind of self-talk. So that's why that quote specifically appeals to me today, because I'm wading in those feelings this day.
Yeah, for me, it spoke very similarly, in that I had to put on a really positive face because I got a really tough phone call at 7-something in the morning. And phone number comes in. I go, okay, this has the potential to be a major situation. What is going on here? And then I remembered, Richard Branson, you will be as successful as you are willing to have difficult and uncomfortable calls. And rather than shirk away, I just said, just dial the number. And we'll talk about this in a minute when we talk about Don Miguel's 4 assumptions. I'd made assumptions that was going to be a very difficult call. And that actually was not a difficult call at all. I was flat out wrong. It was a very pleasant and very unique call. And so I let my own self slump down because I was making an assumption, not a great idea, without being aware and present in the moment. I still took the right action. It worked out. And then I went into 7 others of those difficult challenges this morning. But to your point, what came up for me was sometimes we really do have to put on a good face as a leader, regardless, because you can't take a bunch of other people down with you. Otherwise, the whole operation is going down.
Yep.
Not good.
Yeah. And often we in leadership roles tend to sacrifice. Where did we learn that from? Probably our moms, because moms make lots of sacrifices and we learn that sacrificing is the thing to do. And as leaders, we start to sacrifice things like our own well-being, our mental health, even sacrificing acknowledging true feelings and pushing all of those aside to be strong. And I submit to you, and I'm telling this to myself as well as anyone within earshot, sometimes being strong means acknowledging those feelings and challenges and frustrations.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Deepak had one other piece that I wanted to share before we move on. He said, awareness isn't the same as thinking. The world is so complex that the rational mind cannot calculate all the possibilities in a given situation. Instinctively, we all know this. Therefore, we don't really use logic and reason the way we say we do. We make our decisions intuitively, and afterward, we bring in logic and reason to justify our choices. This doesn't mean that logic isn't valuable. It means that we use much more of our awareness than we realize. I thought that was profound. Because that's really true. I've seen this before. Oh, this is familiar. Oh, let's go that way. Right? Happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I find myself super guilty of that. Like if you're smart and you're have a problem solving nature, it's just so easy to just go there. Well, just do this and this. Assumption, all past data, not necessarily paying attention to the exact thing that's happening in the moment.
Well, it could just be also such relief at having an option.
Yeah.
Just, being aware that there is an option allows you to pursue it and maybe ignore other ones.
Yeah.
Not do the hard thinking.
I wish I was better at that. I kind of like Mr. Brainiac over here. Just can't turn it off. It's hard. So let's listen to what Napoleon had to say here. And this is in the topic of controlled thinking. So controlled thinking to me is maybe not exactly the same as awareness, but a form of awareness. Let's just pay attention. He says controlled attention is organized mind power. It is the highest form of self-discipline. It is the act of coordinating all the faculties of the mind and directing their combined power to a given end or definitive objective. Controlled attention leads to a mastery in any type of human endeavor because it enables one the powers of his mind upon the attainment of a definite objective and to keep it so directed at will. Great achievements come from minds that are at peace with themselves. Interesting. Peace within one's mind is not a matter of luck, but is a priceless possession which can be attained only by self-discipline based upon controlled attention. I was like, controlled attention. That sounds a lot like awareness to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How do we do that? And we know the power of staying focused on a particular objective for a long time. We know what that means when you just say, well, we're not going to get swayed by this thing right here. We're not going to get swayed by this over here. We're just going to keep going, and we're going to stay focused on the end in mind. Pay attention, be aware, protect the space, and keep going. Though not always easy.
Not, especially not in this world. Much more easy 100 years ago, 50 years ago, when then there was much less available to us to consume.
Yeah. And certain things are so much easier and other things are so much harder.
Mm-hmm.
Human relationships and human relations that kind of seem like it's a little nuts to me that we have groups like the Wagner group that decides, oh, we're just going to kill a bunch of people and take over a country because we can. And that's still going on. And that now they do it at such a speed because they can communicate faster, quicker, better, etc. But what about the people? It's terrible.
Yeah.
So in The Habit Factor by my buddy Martin, he talks about awareness and faith. He said, and he quotes Carl Jung, who says, "He who looks outside dreams, and he who looks inside awakens." I thought that was an interesting comment, interesting quote. He said, "There's no magic per se. The sort of achievement can happen," he's talking about high-level achievement, "can happen only via applied awareness, taking constant inventory of your existing habits of thought, spoken word, and action. Applied awareness is a perpetual questioning of whether your current habits are getting you closer to your goals and desired lifestyle or further away. The effectiveness of your results will depend on how frequently you inventory and craft new habits and how often you set new goals." I think that's really true. I think this habit thing is huge.
Yeah.
And being aware of it, really big.
Yep. I definitely do. I don't. Do you do a habit review? Do you look at your life over any length of time, monthly, quarterly, annually?
Yes, I do. I do quarterly and annually. So I set goals that are on my prayer altar, my altar, that I look at most days, that are quarterly sprints and then annual targets. And I love, so I usually set anywhere between 5 and 7 quarterlies.
And these are habits.
They're goals, really.
Oh, okay.
But the goals are driven by habits. Like one of my annual goals was to get back to lifting weights because I'm getting older and you lose muscle mass if you don't lift weights. And so it's been pretty good. And now it's back. Right? So, but that didn't come from nothing. It came from A, setting the goal, B, writing it down, C, looking at it, and then being aware, oh, you have not touched those weights this week. Get back at it, bro. Put on a podcast with Donna Fox, listen to something intelligent and lift some weights.
Even if it was awareness in the first place, helps you create the goal. Awareness that it's, important for you. Yeah.
And what I find really fun is checking them off. And it's not like never is a big word. Not like I always hit all of them. But I always say, if I've got 6 targets, and these targets are not insignificant ever, there's no small targets. But I have 6 targets for a quarter and I'm able to check off 3 of them, I'm like, that's a winning quarter, man. That was a winner right there. That was good.
Yeah.
Next one. Let's move to the next one. Check this out. Martin also says, so while this seems quite obvious, in other words, that you got to keep going at what you're doing, people frequently doubt the end result. This is like getting a few thousand feet in the air and a few miles toward your destination and then abruptly changing course. Such doubt is literally fatal to any successful arrival. In fact, success requires consistency of effort. You must be driven first by the belief that the achievement of the goal or destination is possible. With that repeated belief, a positive thought habit is formed. Without that belief, there is no incentive to maintain course, and all likelihood of a successful outcome is essentially lost.
Hard to argue with that.
Right?
Yeah.
But how often do we fall into that thing of having that doubt and needing to be aware enough to say, hey, stop that. No, 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 no. We're not allowing that to creep in over here. If you're tired or you feel sick or you've had a really rough day or whatever, you're not making big decisions today. Leave those for tomorrow. I think, what was it? I think it was Jewish wisdom, something about you never make a decision when you're angry with your spouse, have had a loss, are hungover, or something else. I can't remember. There's
Hungry,
like,
I believe, is one of them.
The what?
Hungry, I believe, is one
Oh
of
yeah,
them.
that might be one of them too. Yeah, it's like wisdom. Like, yeah, when your awareness is off, why are you making big decisions?
Mm-hmm.
I just won't let myself, man. If I don't feel like my life condition is where it needs to be, no.
And it's important to be aware of the fact that you're off. Aware of the awareness is very meta now, but you can be aware of something. I'll take a topic that really should be discussed a whole lot more than it is, but something I'm dealing with now is menopause. I have reached the age where I am starting to have hormone fluctuations, and I am aware that I am at that age, and I am aware that sometimes these hormone fluctuations cause mood swings. The additional awareness, though, is that I shouldn't be reviewing my employees' work when I'm having one of those days where I'm feeling mood swings. Like that's the awareness of the awareness, if you will, is what does this mean? Like this is, so it is a fact that my body's going through some hormone shifts and it's impacting me. But what actually does it mean? It means maybe I shouldn't be making decisions. Maybe I shouldn't be, managing team members on those days. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say, because I'm aware of this problem, I'm also aware that I shouldn't be taking any of these actions.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for being so aware on behalf of our amazing team. That's very, very thoughtful, kind to both them and you.
Try.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
I remember when Kathy went through it, it was not easy. And I had to be aware enough to say, this is not about me. Don't make it about me. And you'll be in a much better space when we get through this. If I make it about me, then that's a war. And the wars are not good in a home front. They really are not.
They are not.
So my buddy Jeff Goins, it's so cool to usually be referencing people that most of them I know personally. It's very fun, actually. Yeah, it's great.
I just pulled this up to reread it today.
Well, I'm telling you, one of the things he was talking about, well, I'm just going to read it. It's even better. He said, when it comes to your work, there will be things you won't accomplish. Really? Oh, I thought it was just me. And then he says, this is the work of an artist who bravely steps into their field with bold aspirations while recognizing the work will never be finished. To paraphrase Leonardo da Vinci, we can never complete the task. We only abandon it. The challenge for any artist, I was thinking of you when I found this, and we are all creating something on the canvas of our lives, is to do our work well while letting go of the result. If we don't do this, we may very well drive ourselves and those around us crazy. And that's the real tragedy. Not that we leave this world with work unfinished, but that the work robs us of the life we could have lived. The right choice isn't to retire, to simply settle in and invite death. It's to work hard and passionately, but acknowledge the limitations of what one life is capable of. That's profound, man.
It is.
Brother Jeff is a profound dude. He's always doing that kind of get you thinking about that. We only abandon it. That's right. It's never done. Oh, the work of building a company. Oh, I finished.
Right.
It's never done. We're only at some point walking away or passing it on to somebody else. Right? I mean, I was
Yes.
like, that's deep, man. And so today, when my grandson shows up, I'm abandoning today's matter of work.
Good.
My mentor, Jim Rohn, brings out something that we've heard in many ways, but I thought it's really kind of like worth repeating. He says, under the topic of fundamentals, and I'd love to know how you play with this, because I try, and sometimes I'm good at it, and sometimes I'm just not. There are always half a dozen things that make 80% of the difference. A half dozen things. Whether we're working to improve our health, wealth, personal achievement, or professional enterprise, the difference between triumphant success or bitter failure lies in the degree of our commitment to seek out, study, and apply those half dozen things, our awareness of those half dozen things. How's that look in your world?
Yeah, I think that is spot on accurate. And an easy way to look at that might be, or an easy area to look at that might be in health. We all know what we should do to lead a healthy life. We all know that we should eat nutritious food, that we should drink water, we should avoid sugar and other vices. We get regular exercise, push some weight around. Like, we all know that. It's not hard, but doing that is often hard, doing those things.
I love what Jim says. He said, you can't eat. If the point is to eat an apple a day, you can't eat 7 on Saturday night and get the same benefit.
Right. Exactly.
And some people think that, like, no, I'm just going to make it up. Oh, I'm going to deprive myself of sleep all week. And then one day, man, I'm just going to sleep for 20 hours and I'll be good to go. No, you won't.
This is true of our work too. We often put off getting work done thinking, oh, well, I'll just focus on that on the weekend when it's quiet, or I'll have this time to be able to do it. When the reality is that work gets done, I don't care what you say about how good you are under pressure. Work is performed better and more consistently when it is done consistently, rather than waiting for, a big bulk of time. Working on something over time is always better. It always, and we always have room to improve.
And I think each of us have a rhythm that we need to be aware of. Like, for example, I am certain that I do better work in the morning. When I wake up and I do my rituals and my routines to get ready, I'm generally in my office fairly early compared to a lot of people, but that's when I'm getting my best stuff done. And later in the day, late afternoon, better for phone calls and admin and whatever, because if there's something that requires real cognitive power, I often find myself at 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, 6 in the afternoon saying, this is not a good idea for me to be working on this right now. I'm just too mentally tired. And being aware of that, when I know that I wake up in the morning, I'm like, let's go, we got this.
And not being aware of those things and not listening to and responding to that awareness is what leads to burnout. Trying to push forward if you can't.
Yeah, for sure. So our main man, Michael Gerber, likes to point out, talking about the entrepreneurial model, of which many people who are in our community, kind of like most of us, are a part of. He says the following: the entrepreneurial model looks at a business as if it were a product sitting on a shelf and competing for the consumer's attention against a whole shelf of competing products or businesses. Said another way, the entrepreneurial model has less to do with what's done in a business and more to do with how it's done. When the entrepreneur creates the model, he surveys the world and asks, where's the opportunity? Having identified it, He goes back to the drawing board and constructs a solution to the frustrations he finds among a certain group of consumers. It's exactly what we did in Creation Groove. It's exactly what we did. A solution in the form of a business that looks and acts a very specific way, the way the consumer needs it to look and act, not the entrepreneur. How will my business look to the consumer? The entrepreneur asks. How will my business stand out from all the rest? We've been through that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question that has like legitimately been something that we wrestle with as entrepreneurs. Goes on to say, thus, the entrepreneurial model does not start with a picture of the business to be created, but of the customer for whom the business is to be created. It understands that without a clear picture of that customer, no business can succeed.
That was definitely the case with Groove. And
Right.
we knew from the start that our target market was someone who had an online business, had made their first dollar online, but was not comfortable with the technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you constantly have, and we still, and probably will forever, constantly ask ourselves the question, right? What else do they need? Where's the gap?
Mm-hmm.
What are we not providing that they need from us? What's that thing? What is the stop? The solution that we can provide for them.
Yes. And maybe the strongest question a company could ask is, what problems do my product or service create that I can also solve?
Yeah. Which I think has been the evolution of Groove, which has been super fabulous. Great stuff from Michael Gerber. Now, you know Tony Geary?
Not personally, no.
He's a great guy. And this one was written by Peter Thomas and Tony Geary. Now, Peter Thomas built 21, the real estate company, Century 21 Canada. And he became invited by those of us who were in EO for a long, long time to become chairman emeritus of EO. He spent a lot of his life just mentoring entrepreneurs all over the place. And he spent about 6 months of time on his boat. He had a very large, very cool yacht that I was privileged to have a chance to go hang with him on in a couple of times when he made his tour through LA, because I was part of EO LA. And he said they came up with some very cool stuff. One of them is eliminate blind spots from your belief window. So I'm thinking about this again in terms of our topic of awareness. Eliminate blind spots from your belief window. It says your belief window is how you perceive and understand everything in your life, the way you see the world, your role in the world, and the relationships you have with others. It includes everything you believe to be true, false, correct, incorrect, appropriate, inappropriate, possible, and impossible. It frames all your views of people, places, and things, and creates the perceptions and feelings you have about everything. It also influences the actions you take regarding those same people, places, and things. This window allows information you consider important to enter your mind and be retained, and blocks out the things that you do not consider important. It screens information and circumstances you don't think you need. But sometimes principles that cross our belief window can be wrong. Really? Oh, I thought that was only in my window. Outdated, or even just limiting. We all have blind spots that obscure what we could and should see past, and these can really hinder results. How are we to know what our blind spots are to expand our frame of reference? I believe there are 4 core ways. So check out these 4 and tell me what you think. 1, engage a mentor to pour into you. 2, hire a coach to sharpen your thinking. 3, reach out to trusted colleagues. 4, feed your mind purposely through books, videos, and audios.
You know what I love about all of them? None of them are figure it out yourself.
Right?
They all lean on other people, because that's the definition of a blind spot. It's something you can't deal with it yourself. It is something that you require the observations of others to help you with.
And I love the fact that we do all of those.
Mm-hmm.
We're hanging out with peers. We have coaches. We mentor each other. We're feeding ourselves purposely. Everybody listening to this right now or later is doing that. They're doing exactly that. So cool. Next one. By the way, all of these are called business ground rules. So the whole thing is business ground rules is the topic of the book. And so there are a series of them. And I picked 3 for our dialogue today. Next one is be interested, not just interesting. I love that. As a leader, it is particularly important that when you research a company or business opportunity, make sure you also understand the humans within the culture. When you talk to them or meet with them face to face, don't let your previous assumptions or knowledge about the company override the human factor. Listen to them, talk to understand their personalities, and ask questions when the time is right, with the right words, the right strategy, and the appropriate mindset. People ultimately will make the decision on whether or not to buy your product or service or to do business with you. This is why it's essential to be a good people person. Be genuinely interested in what others have to say. Listening will help you ensure you're on track with your presentation or communication, or if you need to make a shift. Remember, it's not about you. It's about them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I find that to be 1 billion% true. You want to be interesting, be interested.
Yeah.
Ask a lot of questions. Listen
Learn
twice.
small talk.
Yeah.
Really, learn the art of small talk.
Yeah, for sure.
I could use improvement in that regard, I think. Yeah. Pardon me.
Hold on. So I think that 98, getting toward the end of this book, and I want to make sure we have time for what I saved for last year, is maintain a strong mental mindset. And I really think that's all about awareness. He says, what goes on in your mind truly impacts your health. Yes. Assess your own self-talk daily and your beliefs about life. Understand your outlook. Is it positive? Adopt a willingness to release grudges and forgive while focusing on the positives. Filter the input you receive from sources such as news, media, and negative people. Health for your mind includes being conscious about eliminating toxins such as unproductive thought patterns, unhealthy habits, and negative self-limiting beliefs, and increasing positive thoughts, energy, and momentum. It encompasses being intentional about who you spend time with because the people around you greatly impact your success. A level of awareness required. I can't say enough about how much I agree with that.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with Donna Fox.
Aw, thanks, Ridgely. I love hanging out with you.
But there's reasons why I feel that way. It's because I feel stimulated. I feel challenged. I feel enriched. I feel empowered. I feel anxious in the positive way. Like I can't wait to have a stimulating dialogue like this. It feeds me to be with you. It's cool.
Thank you. I know that you didn't mean that as a compliment, but it is truly a just wonderful one to hear. So I will take it in the manner in which I intend, which is a compliment to me.
I'm happy for it to be a compliment. I think you're amazing. All right.
I think that's so important in our lives as entrepreneurs, is to just find people that we can have conversations with, real conversations, not just about what's happening on social media or in the news, but this stuff, the real important stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that makes us grow as human beings.
Yeah, because anything that's in the news, I will take books over newspapers any day. And when I talk to someone and ask them what they've read lately, and they say, "Oh, I don't read books. I read the news," I feel sorry for them, really, because the real lessons in life are the ones that people think about enough that they take the time to write a book on the topic. Mm-hmm. It's not just a fly-by-night idea. It's definitely not media trying to manipulate our emotions in one way or the other. Books are written by people who've gone through some stuff in life and figured some things out and want to share them. So I will always be a book advocate.
Me too. And I especially love The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So talk about awareness. That's what this is all about, is an awareness thing. The Four Agreements, for anybody who doesn't know, are: number one, be impeccable with your word. Number two, don't take anything personally. Number three, don't make assumptions. And number four, always do your best. Sounds really simplistic, but doing that is a whole other story. To be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. Constant mental training and awareness to do that. And so I wanted to just focus on the one that I think is most relevant to awareness, which is don't make assumptions. The Third Agreement by Don Miguel. He says the following: the third agreement is don't make assumptions. We have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are the truth. We could swear that they are real. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally, then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our word. That is why whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, and we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. Because we don't understand something, we make an assumption about the meaning. And when the truth comes out, the bubble of our dream pops, and we find out it was not what we thought it was at all. As what happened to me at 7-something this very morning, when I made the assumption, oh no, disgruntled client, and for good reason, because it was none of that. What drama did I put, unnecessary drama did I put myself through because I made the assumption, as opposed to not making an assumption and being open to possibilities? Does this ever happen to you?
It does, yes. And I have a tool that I use when I realize, when I become aware that this has happened to me. Because it's not such a big deal to assume positive things. It's a really big deal when you assume negative things. That has a huge impact on how you proceed in the face of your assumptions. If you're assuming negative things, we tend to run towards things that we're going to be great, think are great, and avoid things that we think are going to be a challenge. So when I become aware that I'm doing that, I ask myself, is that true? Or is that just a possibility? And when I realize the answer is a possibility, I remind myself that negative thinking is the anti-use of my imagination, that I can use those powers for good. Now, immediately think of 3 positive ways or outcomes that could happen from this. And I'm telling you, that turns me around every single time, Ridgely.
That's so great. What a great tool. Is this real, or is it just a possibility?
Yeah. And once you realize something is just a possibility, you realize that you're imagining it. And it might be imagining, I mean, you can imagine, I imagine when I eat this big juicy steak, I'm going to be full and satisfied. Like, it's not real until you do it. It could be a terrible steak and it just looks good and it doesn't fill me or satisfy me. But chances are I'm going to imagine that it is. You know? So if you're imagining, why not imagine the beautiful outcomes? Why not imagine the best outcomes? And I'm not a believer of the law of attraction, but if you are, really focus in on your imagination and find those beautiful outcomes.
Yeah, this is Don Miguel starts to focus in a little bit on relationships. And I think this is where this comes in such a big way. He says, making assumptions in our relationships is really asking for problems. Often we make the assumption that our partners know what we think and that we don't have to say what we want. We assume they're going to do what we want because they know us so well. If they don't do what we assume they should do, we feel so hurt and say, you should have known. In any kind of relationship, including business, we can make the assumption that others know what we think and we don't have to say what we want. They're going to do what we want because they know us so well. If they don't do what we want, what we assume they should do, we feel hurt and we think, how could you do that? You should know. Again, we make the assumption that the other person knows what we want. A whole drama is created because we make this assumption and then put more assumptions on top of it.
Yeah.
We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume that others think the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. This is the biggest assumption that humans make. And this is why we have a fear of being ourselves around others, because we think everyone else will judge us, victimize us, abuse us, and blame us as we do ourselves. So even before others have a chance to reject us, we have already rejected ourselves. That is the way the human mind works. Woo! Okay, now Miguel, getting in our face, are you, bro?
Yeah.
Okay. He says, when we believe something, we assume we are right about it to the point that we will destroy relationships in order to defend our position.
So true. That is just so true when it comes to beliefs. And even though the belief is just you having awareness of a possible outcome and latching onto it, once that latch on happens, it becomes very, very hard to change, especially if it's a negative belief.
I'm going to take it a little deeper and then bring it back because Don Miguel agrees with your philosophy. He says, often when you go into a relationship with someone you like, you have to justify why you like that person. You only see what you want to see, and you deny there are things that you don't like about that person. You lie to yourself just to make yourself right. Then you make assumptions, and one of the assumptions is, my love will change this person. But this is not true. Your love will not change anybody. If others change, it's because they want to change, not because you can change them. Real love is accepting other people the way they are without trying to change them. Here's what he offers as the solution. Very similar to what you just said a few moments ago. The way to keep yourself from making assumptions is to ask questions. I think I just heard that from Donna Fox. Make sure the communication is clear. If you don't understand, ask. Have the courage to ask questions until you are as clear as you can be. And even then, do not assume you know all there is to know about a given situation. Also, find your voice to ask for what you want. Everybody has the right to tell you no or yes, but you always have the right to ask. Likewise, everybody has the right to ask you, and you have the right to say yes or no. That is very cool stuff.
It is very cool stuff. And yeah, I think the power in clarifying questions is enormous, because I agree that this is probably the hardest of the 4 agreements to keep. Simply because we become so certain that what happened before is what will happen again.
Yeah. And it feeds into the other agreements. When you make assumptions, you tend to take things personally when they don't work out the way you're supposed to. And when you do that, you're not impeccable with your word with yourself. You don't know reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember the first time I had a chance to meet Don Miguel, and he's a very diminutive, small, slight person physically. Yeah. But that's where the smallness stops. Just say it. I mean, he literally comes up to about my shoulder level, and super genteel, but his words and his depth of belief of what he has from being a Toltec master and studying this for so long are so powerful. And I love those. And for anybody that hasn't read this, I can't recommend this book enough. The 4 Agreements is one of my favorite go-to all time. Once again, be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So, final words from Donna Fox?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to go after Don Miguel either, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a hard act to follow.
It's like what he said. What he said, right? And we always do our best. And I'm so happy to be doing my best with you. And I can tell you that I feel totally different than what I did at the beginning of this call. And I thought I would. I did make that assumption. I was hoping that I was right, imagining it, and I was. And I feel great. And I just want to say thank you for being you. I love you and appreciate you.
I'm so glad, Ridgely, and thank you for being you. I love and appreciate you, and I know all the Groovesters that will listen to this or that are currently listening to this also love and appreciate you, and thank you for bringing the keeping our heads on straight with the Groove Growth program. I know that you work tirelessly on this program, and so many of the Groovesters don't even know that it exists, and if they did, they wouldn't realize the gold mine of education that they are sitting on, because I believe, like you, this is the stuff that matters the most, more than anything, more than me teaching you how to create a landing page. This is the stuff that's going to change your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I love the Groove community. Can't wait to keep going and look forward to next month. So take us on out of here with GrooveZilla rocking the house down.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
See ya.